Have you ever been 29 under par heading into a drivable par 5? That's right, I said drivable par 5. Ever have to hit a shot over a sand dune, in between several cactuses, cacti, whatever, off a cliff, bounce it onto rocks, and roll 50 feet for a hole-out deuce? Ever play top-end courses like Cactus Canyon, Coconut Cove, or Crawdad Swamp? No. What, do you not like fun? Because if you've never experienced anything like that on a golf course, then you've probably never played Golden Tee, one of the longest-running video game franchises to date.
Welcome to Golden Tee Golf. Honors to golfer 1.
That's center cut.
Golfer 1 from the fairway.
He's killing squirrels, Pat.
Expect a hard break here, Peter.
You don't want to go there.
He dodged the bullet there. Golfer 1 trying for birdie.
The video game industry was in a weird place in the late 80s. The industry soared in the late 70s and early 80s, with revenue upwards of $3 billion. The market was flooded with games and consoles in 1983, causing a large-scale recession in the video game world, and total sales dropped to $100 million. By 1985, the industry had rebounded in the United States, mostly due to the success of Nintendo and a certain mustachioed plumber with a red hat and blue overalls. In 1989, the popularity of arcades had begun to fade as the rise of in-home game consoles soared. So, perfect time to launch an arcade game, right? Before deciding on diving into the world of coin slots, joysticks, and giant gorillas that throw barrels while carrying a distressed princess up an endless ladder, Golden Tee developer Larry Hodgson had a slightly different idea for how the software he had developed could be used. Golden Tee creator Larry Hodgson.
We were putting the game together. It started out as a golf simulator that I was working on, where you'd kind of sense the golf club going through an array of like infrared sensors. And that was kind of before that was commonplace. And so I had a lot of software in place to manage, putting a golf course on a screen and that kind of thing. But our company is an arcade game company at the time. We did arcade games and some games for the consumer market for the old like Commodore 64 and platforms like that. So we decided that instead of trying to kind of branch off into this area that we weren't all that familiar with, that we would turn what I had into an arcade game.
Golf simulators weren't Incredible Technologies' forte. They were a video game company. And much like a mission in a video game, they tasked Larry and his team with developing his simulator idea as an arcade game.
So I partnered up with a buddy of mine that was working in our QA department at the time, and he had a knack for developing courses. His name is Jim Zielinski. So I wrote software tools for him to create the golf courses while I was coding the game itself. And as we were developing it, we were just having a ball playing it. And we would stay, late at night tweaking it and playing the game, and we really felt like we had something, but it was going to be, a long time till we figured out what we had or if we had anything at all.
Golden Tee creator Jim Zielinski.
At the time, our company was not very old. We were a very young company, and just creating product in the coin-op market, which we really hadn't had a whole lot of experience in. We did one game, Capcom Bowling, back in the day, but since then, we had really not created any other coin-op products, so it was a little bit iffy whether we could even, make a go of it. So, our whole idea at the point back then was just let's create a game that we found fun and hope that the audience would relate to it.
The software was there, the design was there, and believe it or not, what would become Golden Tee's signature feature was there as well. Like finding an Easter egg warp whistle in level 1-3. Creator, Jim Zielinski.
A previous golf game called Birdie King used a trackball. it actually was a kit for centipede cabinets. And it was one of the reasons I wanted to do golf, because that game I loved. And I knew that the trackball worked well in that game in the way that they did it. But they didn't really tie the trackball to the golfer. They basically used it as a hitting device, and you could direct your shot with it. So we weren't the first, and even Capcom Bowling wasn't the first. That device had been out there for a while in various forms. If you ever remember the old Atari football game from, I think, like 80 or 81, I got plenty of bruises on my palms playing that thing. That used a larger version of the trackball. So what we did is we took all those things, including Capcom Bowling, and realized that what the trackball was capable of doing really lent itself to mimicking a golf swing. And no one had done that at that point. We were the first to tie the motions of the trackball to the actual physical motions of the golfer. And that one-to-one connection really made it feel like you were golfing. And that's really what we were trying to do.
Creator, Larry Hodgson.
The challenge was to kind of figure out a scheme that would be reasonably intuitive, but allow you to take a swing like a pro, meaning that, your combination of backswing, forward swing, the direction of the backswing, the direction of the forward swing, the amount of power on your forward swing would all come together to shape a shot as if you were an actual PGA pro. And, and taking out the likelihood of an error. You weren't going to hit it fat, you weren't going to hit it thin, you were going to hit a clean shot no matter what. You just had to use your imagination to figure out what kind of shot you wanted to make. And that's really the heart and soul of the game. And so the challenge was to get that trackball to feel just right, to get, the kind of sense of the amount of forward swing I put in is about the amount of distance I'd expect to get, to be able to take a little chip shot around the green or a putt, but at the same time, using the same trackball, hit a driver 300 yards, So those are all really tricky things that took a lot of time to get just right. And once we had it, we just duplicated it from the beginning of time till today. It really hasn't changed.
As the home game console market grew in the early 90s, Golden Tee looked to market outside arcades, with one particular place in mind.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
CEO at Incredible Technologies, Elaine Hodgson.
Big companies, Bally and WMS and Konami and such, they were targeting the arcades for kids. And our game was always targeted more to adults who were going to just, hold a beer in one hand and take a shot with their trackball with the other. So we survived longer than the rest because we were in this niche market that didn't decline as the home game started taking preeminence.
Coming up, the first big update to Golden Tee sparks a decades-long run as one of the top sports games ever, and an innovative new feature allows for tee times from coast to coast. Next on the Golden Tee Time.
Major champions Fred Couples, Hale Irwin, Ben Crenshaw can be heard right here, exclusively on SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left. Cause I've been blasting and laughing so long that even my mama thinks that my mind is gone. But
It's 1995. Sony had just released its original PlayStation console. Nintendo was about to release the Nintendo 64, the last game console to use cartridges, and thus ending the need to blow really hard into a game just to play it. Golden Tee had enjoyed a 6-year run in arcades and tapped into adults' inner kid by placing units in bars. But like consoles going from 8 to 16 to 64 bits, Golden Tee needed to evolve. Graphics were getting better, processors were doing whatever processors do, processing faster. So the decision was made to dive into the first big format change in Golden Tee's history. It was time to level up. It was time for Golden Tee 3D Golf. Golden Tee creator Larry Hodgson.
When we get to Golden Tee 3D Golf, we had a more powerful system, still more or less rooted in 2D as opposed to 3D. And again, the 3D was just done mostly in software, but it was faster and the game moved along quicker. And we had, significantly more power from what we had back in the, late 80s. Now we're talking kind of mid 90s.
CEO at Incredible Technologies, Elaine Hodgson.
Our first version of Golden Tee Golf was great, but we didn't know enough to sequelize it with new courses every year at that point. In those days, designers just wanted to, we've done a golf game, now let's do a driving game and a football game, which we did. And unfortunately, those were not the successes that Golden Tee was. So in 1994, we decided, let's go back to what we know how to do, which was bowling and golf games. So we got the team back together, and that's when Golden Tee 3D Golf was born again. And then in 95, we came out with Golden Tee 4. And I think at that point, we knew with the demand that we had from our customer, even before the tournament system, because we had to have what we felt was a pretty good game and a good installed base to proceed with the tournament, that we had found something that we could take forward for a long time. The Golden Tee was able to generate itself every year with new content and keep it fresh every year.
Along with better visuals and a faster game, industry developers also wanted to find a way to sync up their arcades across the country. This was a big deal in 1995. It was an unprecedented move for video game companies. These were the days before Google, social media, and Angry Birds. Is that still a thing? Creator Jim Zielinski.
Our industry was looking for a way, kind of like how the movie industry reacted to television when it first came on board, is they tried, what can we do to hook and bring in more people? And one of the ideas that the industry had in the various trade groups was, hey, let's connect the arcade so we can compete, arcade to arcade. And the problem was that, and Richard, who's our executive vice president, he was looking, saying, hey, I have some ways of doing this. And it became political, and it became like, as in any kind of trade behemoth, it's like the more people demanded features, it stagnated, and it never went anywhere. And things, we tried for a long time to work within the industry and say, hey, okay, let's see where this goes. And finally, Richard just got fed up, said, forget it, I'm going to do this myself. And he was really the one who was prodding the connection and moving the stuff.
Creator Larry Hodgson.
We had some success running monthly tournaments on that platform. So we had kind of prize pools for different skill levels that we would pay off on every month. And it was really novel at the time, and it got the industry, the coin-op industry, which is what arcade games were operated by, this coin-operated game industry. It got that network of coin-operated game operators really excited about the concept of it.
Elaine Hodgson.
That was groundbreaking, really, to think about doing that. But our operator association at the time was trying to think of ways to be online. They wanted one hardware platform. They wanted to be able to download games to it. And they did want to be able to run tournaments. But they kind of had a very expensive and not great way to do it. And my partner, Richard Ditton, figured out that what we could do was really have a central server and then have each game have a modem in it, and then it would phone home, much like E.T. So they would phone home at night with the results of the day. That's how it started. And so we would just have the server back in our office doing that. And that was a much less expensive way than having, the phone trying to figure out, for us to connect in the other direction. So we did a lot of groundbreaking things in that time in order to do this. First of all, we put a dollar bill acceptor on the game, which was an expensive piece of equipment, several $100s, and that was not common because coin-op was really usually coins. And now we were asking people to put in dollar bills to play a more expensive experience because it was a longer period of time. And so we got that happening. And then in order for us to have a tournament system, and it wasn't on the internet, by the way, it was just a phone calling through the phone lines back to our server. So thousands of phones calling us every night. Anyway, and then the other groundbreaking thing was we got operators to allow us to sweep their bank accounts for the online fees that we were charging and the tournament fees that we were charging as well. And this was not something that operators had ever done before. So it was a slow rollout, really. It took a while for us to get even 10% of our customer base to want to do this. But ultimately, we convinced them that they had a better game experience and they were making more money if they got online and paid the extra fees and allowed us to sweep their accounts. But all of these things were groundbreaking and wasn't overnight. It took a lot of convincing.
Among the big changes with Golden Tee 3D was adding a face to a video game that had become so popular. No longer was it just player one on the tee. It was 7-time PGA Tour winner and champion of the U.S. Open, who took down Roy McIlroy in the final round after McIlroy put 5 balls in the water on the 72nd hole and made it 12.
This is for par. So birdie wins it. Birdie wins it.
That's par. Lower third.
He's in the lead now.
Jacobson's in the lead. 8 under. They all have to catch him.
This is everything, ain't it? This is the choice it comes down to. This is our immortality. You don't need to be thinking immortality. You need to be thinking hit the 7-iron.
Go for it, Roy. Just knock it on.
I'm playing it from right here, now. Now. Take a drop, Roy. Give me a ball. This is the last ball you got in the bag, Roy. You get this one, we're disqualified. I can make it across. Well, then do it.
Peter Jacobson.
I really enjoyed the people that came out to meet me in Portland, the people from Incredible Technologies out of Chicago who created the game. They came out and they had this idea of this parlor game with golf, and obviously being a longtime golf nut, I thought it was the coolest idea in the world. And again, whenever you get involved with something, it isn't really the product, it's the people behind that product. There have been a lot of great products fail, but not by people that really have passion and understand the game and they understand the market. So the group of people at Incredible Technologies were the people that sold me on them. And then as a result, I got involved with Golden Tee, and it's just been an incredible run and huge success for the game.
Elaine Hodgson.
Our salesperson, who was an external salesperson at the time, Bill Cravens, the dearly departed Bill Cravens now, he thought that we would have a better job of it selling the game if we had the celebrity face. So he had a contact who was connected to Peter Jacobson's manager, and he got a meeting, and Peter Jacobson was willing and able, and he was a great partner because he has that great sense of humor, and he was able to put his voice in the game, and he was able to ad-lib and be fun, and it was really good for us, and it gave Golden Tee at the time more credibility to be associated with someone like Peter Jacobson.
It was pretty funny for a long time. I'd be out playing, and there would be some kids with their moms and dads out there, and they'd say, "Hey, that's the guy from Golden Tee." So I was probably known more by teenagers and young adults as the Golden Tee guy than I was for being a PGA Tour player.
Peter Jacobson's Golden Tee 3D Golf had everything it needed to not only survive, but thrive in what was the beginning of a new digital world. By the end of 1996, over 1,200 cabinets would be installed across 32 states. Tournaments were being held with grand prizes of $1,000. Golden Tee had made their mark in the video game world. But the journey is far from over. Coming up, 2 new platform changes in 10 years carries Golden Tee into the 2000s. And don't tell Dad, but all that time spent playing video games can actually lead to a career. Next on the Golden Tee Time. It's 2000. Video games are still thriving with the release of the next generation of home consoles. PlayStation 2 would go on to become the best-selling console of all time with 155 million units sold in the world. Microsoft would get into the console world with the Xbox, and Nintendo was still finding success in the market thanks to the popularity of handheld gaming systems. Heck, there were even multiple golf video games out in 2000, headlined by Tiger Woods' PGA Tour 2001.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
But none of those games had the staying power like Golden Tee. Now in its second decade of existence, Golden Tee was the Tiger Woods of golf video games. Cool, dominant, and always changing. The big change in 2000 brought Golden Tee 4. Golden Tee creator Larry Hodgson.
As we got the Golden Tee 4, that was the introduction of a true 3D graphics chip. And then that allowed us to have, cameras that would fly around and, just a more beautifully realized golf course.
New technology brought upgrades to the series like sleek graphics, better 3D courses, and bigger online tournaments. But one thing that wasn't going to be changed was the soul of Golden Tee, the core function that helped make the game so much fun, the trackball. Creator Jim Zielinski.
Yeah, well, actually, each one of those had significant hardware upgrades, and that's pretty much the biggest difference. I mean, obviously there's some features that were added, major features that were added to each version, but for the way that we break those up, and that's why we changed the names of those, was mainly because our hardware set was brand new, and the actual display and graphics and processor and all those things were new to that system. Now, what we always have tried to not do since day one is keep the logic and the programming for the trackball control and how the ball actually works as far as physics go. We tried to keep that constant throughout, all the way back to the very first game, because we knew it was fun, and we also know anyone who had learned on that system and learned the intricacies of the trackball could apply that to the other systems. So basically, we made it better looking and more fun to play and added features. But the core game that we really loved, we kind of kept throughout.
As the game continued to develop and grow, so did tournaments and the number of players in those events. All this would eventually lead to the first ever Golden Tee World Championship in 2002. The stakes were high. 32 players battled for $15,000 and the right to be called the best virtual golfer in the world.
Well, yesterday on Golf Central, we saw the team competition in the Golden Tee World Championship. On tonight's Golf Central, the individual champion is crowned, and it's a big deal. The winner received $15,000. That's a lot of quarters. 32 players from the United States and the world over were paired down to the Final Four. In the semifinals, Canadian Ryan Ferrens defeated Englishman Andy Brooks to gain entry into the championship match. Brooks would finish in fourth place.
I wasn't expecting when I came over here. Had a real good time, and I've actually ended up with a position that I wasn't thinking of. I mean, we've been working towards this for like the last 5 months, and the effort that's gone into it and the time we've had over here has just been wonderful. Had a much better time than I was expecting.
On the American side, Greg Kensler got into the finals by defeating Tom Costa. He would finish third. So the best-of-3 stroke play showdown was on. Kinsler grabs the first game by 2 shots. In the second match, the 23-year-old Kinsler drops this ace in the par 3/8 to help him take a one-stroke lead into the par 5/18. Kinsler then sinks a double eagle putt to win the inaugural Golden Tee World Championship. With his winning check, Kinsler's yearly earnings have topped $65,000. Ryan Barron takes home $5,000 for finishing runner-up.
A little upset. What can I do, though? You know, he proved himself to be the better player. He's been playing longer than me, more practice than me.
Champion Greg Kinsler says he plans on using some of his money to go to Q school next year, playing real golf.
It's unbelievable. I mean, to win an event of this caliber is just beyond my thoughts. I mean, it's so great. I feel so good right now. I don't even know how to describe it.
He won over $65,000 this year playing Golden Tee golf. For Rich Lerner, I'm Brian Hammond. Keep it in the short bed.
Amusement marketing manager Kevin Lindsay.
Golden Tee 4, when that was released in 1999, early 2000. And that was when we really started to, Golden Tee became a household name. It became a brand that everybody knew. We went from thousands of cabinets to, 20,000 or more cabinets that were connected. We had custom player cards that players could actually track their stats and their earnings. And we had our first national championship on Fox, I believe, back in 2002, 2003. And around that same time was when Golden Tee exploded across the UK and in Africa and some of these other countries. So we had a need for a world championship.
Golden Tee was not only making money for itself, it was making money for the people who played it. And not just returning the quarters that were put into the machine. We're talking some serious coin here, folks. Players were quitting their jobs and paying their mortgage with their virtual sticks. Two-time Golden Tee World Champion, Mark Stenmark.
It was a lot of fun to play, but then I also saw that there was a feature in the game where you could make some money, or at least win some money playing against the other competitors or whatever by putting in an extra dollar. So I decided to just start playing a lot. I started playing a lot. I started finding other players in my area who I would see on the leaderboards who were better than I was, and then go around to where they played and picked up some tips here and there. And basically just to the point where I just wanted to get to the point where I could, maybe just break even on my investment. Whatever I'm putting in, maybe I'm winning back. But I took it beyond that and to a point to where I was actually turning a profit, and it was the point to where I didn't have to work any other jobs once it was being an independent moneymaker, I guess, to where I didn't I didn't have to go into work and work for somebody else. I could work for myself by playing this game and making money in it, and that was it was just a good feeling to be able to do that, I suppose.
The continued success of the game, leagues, and tourneys led to another big format change in 2005. The last huge change for Golden Tee and the longest-running version the game has seen. Its latest update was Golden Tee Live. Creator Jim Zielinski.
The biggest thing throughout the Golden Tee history is Larry and I kind of deciding where do we go from here. I mean, at the very beginning, we say, well, we put in what we wanted to, and then I think the biggest part of the process is what would we like to see. What would be cool? What do we think our players would react to? Where do we want to take it from here? What's the next step? What's the next part of the evolution? And that's number one. It can be pie in the sky stuff. It's like, if we had our ultimate game, this is what we would like it to do. Now, sometimes technology doesn't permit that, and there are things that you can't do. But we always at least have that ultimate goal of this is where we would like it to eventually be. And then we work towards that. And then once we have the major kind of things that we want to do, the structures in place as far as what are the big picture items that we want to do, then we break that down into the little smaller details and work with people to make sure that we build that from the foundation up. So that's where we start. Obviously, things can change direction as we encounter problems or technical roadblocks, and we have to change course on some things. But for the most part, the overall vision is there from the beginning. Larry and I, we used to, we haven't done it. I mean, we haven't done an upgrade, a hardware upgrade in a long time, but we would sit down, just he and I, write down, come up with the ideas of what we wanted to do, and then we would bring those to a larger group of our development team for feedback and to fine tune and help fix things that we haven't thought of, or make it a little less rough around the edges, things like that.
Golden Tee Live hit the ground running and thrived as results were now available to update in real time. Among the new features, live tournaments allowed players to play for prizes for an extra $1, entering in a 50-person tournament where each person is playing the same course with the same tee boxes, wind speed and direction, pin placement, and other conditions. Customization was also a big new feature in Golden Tee Live. Want more distance off the tee? Grab the Apex FTX. Want those crazy pants like John Daly? Put them on one leg at a time and make gold records.
I gotta have more cowbell.
And where else can you get a dozen golf balls for 50 cents? Coming up, Golden Tee looks to the future as the world becomes more digital by the minute. Next on the Golden Tee Time.
All 4 of golf's major championships can be heard right here. Sirius XM PGA Tour Radio, Sirius 208 XM92, and on your Sirius XM app.
It's 2008. The Nintendo had a widely popular console with the Wii, outselling the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Golden Tee had another successful update with Golden Tee Live, and we're now holding yearly competitions with players from all over the world. It culminated with the World Championships in 2008 in Las Vegas, just another instance of how Golden Tee seemed to be on the forefront of innovation in the gaming world. Esports was still in its infancy, and popular video game streaming site Twitch wasn't even born yet. Golden Tee project manager Adam Kramer.
I was here for 2008, the World Championship, which was in Vegas, and I think in a lot of ways that event was ahead of its time. This was pre-esports. This was pre-everything. We view ourselves as like one of the original esports. We started doing these competitive tournaments with qualifiers in the games and different things around 2002. Very common now when you look at all the different games trying to award players. So we wanted to kind of reinvent ourselves in that competitive world. We have an amazingly dedicated, borderline insane, and I mean that in the best possible way, group of competitive players, some of which have been around since the very start. And so like really creating an event that highlights this upper echelon of Golden Tee was hugely important to us.
Amusement marketing manager Kevin Lindsay.
You always hear about the Golden Tee community being like a huge brotherhood and, family that anybody could count on if they were out of town and they needed somebody to hang out or visit, or if there was, a tough situation they were trying to go through. And until you actually go to one of these Golden Tee tournaments and meet these players and the crazy, fun, loving characters they are, you can't understand it. I mean, it really is a family. I went to my first tournament, almost 10 years ago in 2010, 2011. And I've been doing, 6 to 8 tournaments every year since then. I went from just a player at these tournaments to helping out with the social media and helping out with running the tournaments. So I got to really know, a couple hundred different players of all, ages and sex and race and all that. It's just a huge community full of different people that have, different thoughts and feelings, but share the same love and passion for Golden Tee. And without, these guys and gals that I've met over the years, I wouldn't have met Adam and another coworker of mine, Brad Litz, about, 7-8 years ago. And without meeting those guys and understanding the passion that they had from the incredible technology standpoint, I probably wouldn't be in the position I am now, almost 3 years later and helping, push the next generation of Golden Tee.
The 2008 World Championships would be the last world event Golden Tee would put on for 8 years. Why, you ask? Because of the success of Golden Tee. Kevin Lindsay.
In 2008, we held the World Championships in Las Vegas, and then we took a hiatus for about 8 years. And just between the incredible technologies getting into gaming and just the amusement division kind of reprioritizing not only Golden Tee, but we had Silver Strike Bowling, and then eventually we came out with Power Putt Mini Golf. So, our focus wasn't just on Golden Tee. Because of the success we had with Golden Tee, we had all these other entities that we had to share the focus on.
The World Championships returned in 2016 and grew like Mario finding a little red mushroom.
Took a little hiatus from doing the World Championship, but honestly, it was a strong push from us internally in marketing to say we need to get this back up and running. We've always had strong Vegas roots, so we brought this back gradually. Really, 4 years ago, have started it small, and we wanted to grow this. I mean, we wanted to kind of reinvent ourselves in that competitive world. We have an amazingly dedicated, borderline insane, and I mean that in the best possible way, group of competitive players, some of which have been around since the very start. And so, really creating an event that highlights this upper echelon of Golden Tee was hugely important to us. Like, the relationship with ESPN2 this year on the Ocho was tremendous. We felt like it was a logical next step. We've had betting odds on the Golden Tee World Championship the last 2 years. We're one of the few video games, arcade games to ever have this. When you talk about having actual Nevada-approved betting odds on the Golden Tee World Championship, to me, it was kind of a monumental moment for the game and something we're really, really proud of. And again, signifies just the maturity of the products, the stability of the product, the fact that we've been around 30 years, and they'd be comfortable aligning with us to allow us to do that for that event.
And so about 2016, the World Championships came back, and it was a little bit different because they had been away for so many years. But we held a small, I believe it was 30-man World Championship at the trade shows. And then the next year, there was such a demand and a response from our players that it just has grown exponentially over the last few years. In 2017, we held it at an arcade bar in Las Vegas that some of our ownership had, a partnership in. 2018, we moved over to the Orleans Hotel and Casino in their showroom, and the partnership with Boyd has been great for us. It really gave us a big push in the Vegas area, and our operators, who own the Golden Tees across the country, not just the players, really started to understand, the value of the World Championship and why we brought it back. And then, of course, in 2019, this past June, we held the World Championship at the Orleans for a second year in a row. But this is when we took production from just a small-time friend of the program doing our live stream and recording to a massive production company out of Las Vegas because we were having that 30-minute special on ESPN, the Ocho.
It's now 2019, right smack in the middle of the digital age, and Golden Tee is still here. Adam Kramer.
We understand that a certain segment of the population is going to see Golden Tee on TV and wonder why it's on, and it'll be a parody to some, and we're okay with that. We think the exposure is huge. We really do think that the product and the competitive nature of it would speak for itself. So, yeah, some of the stuff is outrageous and different, but we felt really comfortable in how we were going to present it and the players on there and everything else that we just thought, what a great way to get the brand out there. So, no, I get why people would think that, but quite honestly, it's an opportunity to put our game and our product and our players on ESPN2. It just felt like too good of a situation to pass up.
Kevin Lindsay.
We definitely sat down as the core team from marketing and sales and thought about, okay, this is an opportunity that even though it's ESPN the Ocho on ESPN2, and there are some, fun gag type, sports or esports that are on there, we looked at it as a big opportunity, especially as Golden Tee has grown so much over the last few years. We've got 15,000 games across, bars and arcades in the U.S. and Canada, and a lot of, I would say, about 4,000 Golden Tee home editions that people actually have in their houses, in their garages, in their basements. And so, Golden Tee is still growing at such a huge rate even for a brand that is celebrating its 30th anniversary. So we looked at it as, the ESPN, the Ocho, it's a fun side gig that they do each year, but there is some legitimacy to it after 3 or 4 years of them doing it. And ESPN is such a powerhouse. It's such a big name in sports. And, they're starting to feature a lot more esports. So we looked at it as an opportunity for Golden Tee to kind of get back into the spotlight that we had in the early 2000s with some of our major events. And especially because we were celebrating the 30th anniversary, we knew, we were going to have the largest prize pool in history. And we had the support from all of our operators and players and locations that, we knew that if we didn't do the ESPN part of the world, that we'd be really missing out on a huge opportunity.
My role in this company has changed a lot over the last decade. But I never want to lose that. I still create YouTube videos and stream videos every week. Most days I'm creating this stuff. And, when you go to other companies, video game companies, like the project manager of these games, they're not usually in like a little room creating YouTube content. To me, that's hugely important. We've always been a very transparent, very open company. Our philosophy with our players is always like kind of that barstool mentality where we want to sit next to you and talk about the game. So to sit there and commentate about Golden Tee for 18, 20 hours over the course of 3 days, it's exhausting. I don't think I had a voice. And I got another funny story for that. I don't think I had a voice for that. My wife, we actually had our third child a week before the World Championship. To tell you how much I care, she was induced about 9 days before our World Championship so I could go there and be at the World Championship. I have an amazing wife, obviously, and so I was there with a 1-week-old at home commenting on the Golden Tee World Championship. Sad, maybe, dedicated, obviously, but yeah, I really do care, and we wanted to present it in the best possible way, and it turned out to obviously be our biggest investment we've ever done.
30 years of virtual tee times, 30 years of innovation, 30 years of laughter with a beer in one hand and the trackball under the other. Golden Tee has been in the palm of people's hands since the 80s, but the next logical step in the evolution of the game was to get in their pockets. And not for the coins in those pockets, but on mobile devices that are carried around 24/7. Golden Tee project manager Adam Kramer.
We outsourced this game originally and to a company, and what they attempted to do was to recreate Golden Tee mobilely. And I think what we learned, or at least what I learned, and I was involved in that some, but not certainly in the decision-making, was if you try to port over Golden Tee as it stands in the arcade game to a mobile device, it's just not going to work. So I think the biggest thing that we had, that was ammunition for us to create a mobile game. And look, I have played the arcade game now for more than 15 years. It's, in my opinion, the greatest game on any device ever made. And helping as like the design lead on mobile, we knew that we could absolutely not create the same arcade game and port it over to the phone. The beauty of Golden Tee in the arcade, you could put $5 in for a game. You can buy a set of clubs for $2. You could buy 12 golf balls for 50 cents. And for $7.50, you are essentially maxed out as a player. It's, I think, what is a great attraction and nothing we'd ever want to change in the arcade. That is not a progression system that's going to work on mobile devices. You have to create different content. You have to just grow players a little bit differently. And so what we really wanted to do was structure it much, much different. It had to look like Golden Tee. It has to feel like Golden Tee. And I mean the controls, the trackball, but it also, we have to have a really just an honest conversation that we couldn't recreate the magic of that trackball and all the controls and all these different mechanisms. So really it was, we began with what makes the game great, but then we sort of decided very early on that we wanted this game to be different. If you play the arcade, you're going to look at this and say, yep, that's Golden Tee. And sure, you'll say the mechanics certainly feel like it, but we also wanted to make this game different. We knew we saw what that meant when people tried it before, and we knew we wanted to obviously verge from that. I think we successfully have done that.
Phones are just the next bullet point on the long, long resume that Golden Tee has built. But as with each update throughout the game's history, the soul of the game remains in its ability to bring people together and have fun, whether that be at a bar on a stand-up machine or killing time in a meeting on your smartphone.
We talk endlessly about ways we can make this game better, things that we like, things that didn't work. It's a very open environment to me from an idea generation standpoint. It's amazing where some of the best ideas with this game come from. It doesn't have to come from the people that we, empower to create these things. It can come from a new artist or someone in customer service in passing. So I think we've really tried to extend, the extension of what makes Golden Tee great. I'd like to think at least we've bottled some of that in the creative process where we want people to have a voice. We want to have communication be great. And look, we are at the end, we have to run a business. We have to be good at what we do, but we want to enjoy ourselves along the way. In the end, we're making Golden Tee. and I think culturally it should reflect that. And I think it does. For a 30-year-old product, we feel there's a lot of life left. And you celebrate your 30th anniversary, and next year truly is going to be the biggest year we've ever had. It's amazing some of the planning and different things we have going on now beyond whether it involves the mobile device or beyond. So no, man, it's exciting. We got our work cut out for us, but it's going to be a great year.
So what will the next 30 years bring for Golden Tee? Will we be teleported to the first tee set up on top of an actual volcano? Maybe. Will Golden Tee become self-aware like Skynet and send a stand-up machine back in time to kill Peter Jacobson? Probably not. But one thing is true. Golden Tee will be around. Its staying power is undeniable. Its name is synonymous with golf and bars, two things often used to escape reality.